From your brain.
From my mind vagina.
What the? All right, so you're watching the MTGeez Spellcast. I'm your host, Matt Pinnell, and with me is...
The other host, Matthew Marino.
All right, and we're here... Oh, my God, I almost thought we were doing Eldraine for a second. No.
That's over.
That's done with. Eldraine's old news. Today we're talking about deck building, tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks and tricks.
And dips and tips.
We wanted to get into something for breaking away from the deck listing and go into actual something that everyone could use.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone liked Throne of Eldraine. Me, I have a personal take on Throne of Eldraine because I really love the set, but maybe not everyone's like that. So let's get into something everyone does, and that's building your commander deck. Some tips, some tricks, what to avoid, what to maybe implement.
Yeah, and like a good starting point, because I know that a lot of people will say, and I can agree with this, that building a deck from scratch can be daunting.
Yes, it can be.
So sometimes rules of thumb are welcome for getting you started, and I even just love listening to other people talk about how they like to go about deck building. I can gush about this all day. So just to recap where we were with that, yeah, Commander is much more social. It's more like a game night sort of thing.
Whereas I like what you used before, almost like a board game.
Yeah, like a board game.
I like that comparison.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep that in your head, because that's why you're playing Commander. Like, sometimes I think about when I'm building a deck, like, well, what am I willing to do? Because I like to think I'm a pretty strong player, and I've come up with some really powerful decks, but sometimes they're not so much fun for other people. And I don't want that. I don't want to create a situation where people are like, I bring out a deck and people are getting the grumbles.
And in terms of that, let's bring up what I believe should be tip number 1.
Sure.
Which is picking your commander.
I thought we had a tip number 1.
Yeah, forget that. Scratch that. All right, that doesn't exist anymore.
Tip 1A.
I'm retconning it.
Okay, Akira Toriyama. Okay, George Lucas.
Who's Super Saiyan 4 Goku?
Super Saiyan 4 Goku.
But honestly, picking your commander should be the first tip, because I believe that you shouldn't pick a commander. Not gonna call it any names. You shouldn't pick a commander that you know will win.
Yeah.
You should be picking a commander that you know you're going to have fun with.
Yeah, we'll say this. If you're starting off by just looking up powerful commanders in EDH,
you're probably going about it wrong.
Yeah, you're going off about it on the wrong foot. You're not gonna make a good impression on your play group by starting with a commander that's just been proven to be powerful.
Yeah.
What will be an impressive thing for your play group is if you take a commander that's innocuous and you make it good.
Yeah, or pick a commander you can have fun with. Practically all the commanders that I play, none of them are OP by any means. Maybe Joyra is might be a bit on the...
Like, I wouldn't say that Joyra is mean. It's definitely
the way
very consistent.
Yeah, and the way the deck was built.
It doesn't take much to get it going, and it's not very interactive. That's the only thing I could say negatively about Joyra. But it's not mean like some commanders are mean. Mean to me would be like stopping your opponents from doing things. So we've talked about what not to do. Let's talk about how to go about making a deck, because that's what I want the focus to be.
Okay.
So you got to start with a concept, I think.
Well, wouldn't your concept revolve around the commander's effect?
Mostly would be around your commander, because you can go about it. I can conceive of a way of starting a commander deck that doesn't start with the commander. Like, I could go about making this deck, and I could use one of several different commanders. But mostly you're going to be starting with a legendary creature, and you're going to say, like, okay, well, what is this creature trying to do? How can I turn this into a win condition? How can I build a deck to support this commander? So once you start with that, you can, what I like to do is I like to go through my own collection and pull cards in those colors that support what the commander is trying to do.
Okay.
So I'm working on a deck tech right now for Alicia, who has several abilities. Well, first off, she's in red, white, and black, which already is going to influence the type of deck that you make.
Of course.
Because colors matter in Magic, and it kind of
They do.
It informs what the deck is going to be doing in a lot of cases. She has first strike and lifelink. So the more power you can give her, the better, because you're gonna get that back in life. So you can do life gain strategies.
But what's her main effect?
Her effect also is that for every 1 life that you gain that turn, it reduces her cost. She starts at 5 generic and then red, white, black. So every 1 life that you gain reduces her cost, including any commander tax on her. So when I saw this card, I immediately thought, well, she could die any number of times, and you could always reduce her cost
By using the
you could theoretically reduce her cost down to 3 every time if you gain enough life, regardless of how many times you've had to recast her. So let me just make her as much of a threat as possible, and if she dies a bunch, that's fine. And she also has the ability that you can pay 5 life once per turn to put 3 counters on her, so she can make herself grow larger, gain life every time she swings. She's hard to get rid of because of the first strike. As far as combat goes. So, Voltron. Put all of your eggs in that Leecha basket.
You could.
That's a concept. And then you just kind of grab cards that support that. Okay, things that protect Leecha. Things that gain you life to get her out cheaper. Things that help her in combat to make good use of that high power point.
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
I think
this is a presentation.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to use for my example on how to build like a commander deck, or you said focus, not necessarily focusing, but building up on their effects.
Yeah.
Is I have 2 cards that have the same mana pool. They both have blue, red, and white. You have Shu Yun, the Silent Tempest. His cost is 2 and a blue. However, in his effect is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may play red, white, red, white. If you do, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Since in his effect he has both red and white, the total mana colors that you can use or that you have access to is blue, red, and white.
Yeah, his color identity.
Then you have Ruhan of the Fomori, which is 1 red, white, blue, so same colors. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random. Ruhan of the Fomori attacks that player this combat if able.
I love Ruhan.
He's a 7/7.
Yeah, so you start off with a big body, and then you could just tack things onto that.
Yeah.
So again, like a Voltron sort of strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have 2 commanders with very close mana costs as well to get them out. Same color identity, vastly different ways to play them. With Shu Yun, you're going to want to get out a couple of monks that all have the prowess ability, and then just start triggering prowess over and over again, as many times as you can. Ruhan of the Fomori, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build them up, as you said, Voltron style. So again, you have to remember on what style you like to play, and then pick your commander accordingly.
Like, do you care about combat? If you do care about combat, are you going tall with your commander, or are you going wide with multiple creatures? Like, these are questions that you have to answer when you're starting this idea. That's going to inform what cards you're going to pull from your collection.
From those 2 commanders that I said, Shu Yun, the monk commander, and Ruhan of the Fomori, knowing their effects, which one do you think I would build?
Well, because Shu Yun,
the Silent Tempest.
Shu Yun supports other creatures. I haven't seen you do much in the Voltron realm. I don't know, Matt. Which one would you do? I don't want to guess.
I would most likely I would definitely build one off of Shu Yun, because Ruhan of the Fomori is good and it's powerful, but its effect is very one step. I attack an opponent at random. Okay, build him big and swing.
There's not much to it.
Exactly.
He's not adding that much. He's just big and stupid.
Exactly.
He's literally big and stupid.
Yeah, he really is. Shu Yun, however, has prowess and then has an effect that builds off of prowess.
Yeah,
And
it actually gives you a lot of options and decision points.
Yeah, and I like building off of if I have like 3 monks out and they all have a prowess effect that procs when I play a non-creature spell. I like that happening. I like seeing
Yeah.
different things going on.
I thought that might have been more your style, um, especially because Ruhan of the Fomori, like I would much rather start with a commander that has low power toughness, but has a lot of keyword abilities or a special effect, rather than a commander with essentially no abilities, but it's just big. Because, I mean, I can always give my commander equipment or use a pump spell and buff it up.
Exactly.
But when you start with like a special ability or keyword abilities, you actually have something that you know you'll have every time you have your commander out, and then all you need is just pump spells to get it to a high number. Tell us about Sir Gwyn.
Okay, so Sir Gwyn is she is one of the newest knights from Throne of Eldraine.
Oh no, Throne of Eldraine!
She is 3 red, white, black, so she's got a very high mana cost. She's on 6. However, she's got Vigilance and Menace as a 5/5. And she's got 2 effects. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you may draw a card and lose 1 life. So she's got draw power right off of her ability.
That's amazing.
But the thing that really attracted me to her was equipment you control have equip knight 0. So you can get out any number of so if you can get out your equipments and any number of equipments that you can, just get them all out. And as soon as Sir Gwyn comes out, and if you have she's a knight, so she counts as well.
Yeah.
But if you have other knights, you can literally pick and choose how you want those equipments to go onto those knights because it just immediately attaches to them.
They attach for 0. So now she says for each knight that is equipped that attacks, you draw a card.
Yes.
One life. So you actually, I'm guessing you want to go wide with that strategy, right? Get as many draws as you want. Or maybe you switch it up. Like you might want to go tall on her or go wide depending on how many creatures you have at the time.
It depends. If I'm let's say I'm low on cards. Let's say I only have like 2 or 3 cards in my deck. I would adjust my equipment spread to get me to draw up to near max hand size.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to discard.
Like depending on your needs.
Yeah, and because they're equipped 0, you can switch them up as however you want.
Yeah, there's no cost associated with it.
Let's say
you could choose on a whim.
Yeah, so let's say I want to swing for game. I'll just throw them all on Sir Gwyn because she's got Menace.
Oh yeah, she's a great example for what we're talking about.
Yeah, she's got Vigilance and Menace, so she won't tap out, so she can still block next turn if she needs to, and she's got Menace, which makes her an even harder target to block to begin with.
Yeah. When you have a good legendary creature with a lot going on, you have a starting point, and it gives you something to think about when you're pulling cards. So you have your concept, you have your legendary creature. You go through your collection of cards if you have enough to work with, or you might look online. If you're looking online, you can use something like the Gatherer, and you can do card searches based on, first off, the colors that you're looking for. So you can exclude, if you're in red, white, black, you can exclude blue and green cards, and you can hone in on something that works with your commander. So if you're doing Sir Gwyn and you need knights, you can just search for knights in her colors and just flip through that list. And if something catches your eye, go to name your website, TCG Player, Card Kingdom, whatever, and compile a list of cards that you want to grab, and go from there.
Which should lead us up to number 2.
Yeah.
You picked your commander. Start fleshing out that deck with creatures, depending.
Yeah.
Depending.
Well, with spells.
Yeah. So, you pick and choose from there. And then...
And you can amass a pile, of cards that is larger than what you could possibly use, because then the next step would be to pare it down.
Exactly.
Now that you have this big stack of cards, you've ordered stuff, you got it in, you have things you've been sitting on, then you go through, and what I like to do is, before we start selecting our spells, I like to just get the mana base out of the way. just so that I have a hard limit on how many spells can be included in the deck. Now this can depend on the person, but what I like to do.
So wait, hold on. So you like to go with your mana base first before your cards?
Yeah, because I see the mana base as something that is non-negotiable. So, like, if you're editing a deck, you cannot take.
In terms of like how many mana cards you have,
Yeah, that's
or the
one
concentration.
thing. Well, so what I mean is that I like to put 38 lands in a deck as a starting point. That's a good place to start. And if I decide that I need to add more or less, I can make a decision about that. But 38 is my number.
I like to revolve around 37, 36, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and it depends on the person. I found that 38 works. Like, I get lands at a rate that I'm content with during a game. So I get my 38 lands, and I usually do, like, if I'm in 3 colors, I'll do 10 or 12, 14 non-basic lands for the color fixing. And, based on your budget, this could be higher or lower. Like, if you have a lot of dual lands and you might go up as much as like 20 non-basics, and whatever, do whatever makes sense to you.
Pro tip: in a monocolored deck, don't throw any dual lands. Why are you doing that?
So I like to get my lands figured out. And I usually what I'll do is I'll just get like I'll distribute my colors evenly at first. Just put even numbers of each of the colors in basic lands, have a pretty even distribution of dual lands, get my 38 figured out, put that aside, don't touch it again until later. Then I have 1 slot for the commander, and then 61 slots for the spells. So then I add cards in from my pile of worthy cards in order of relevance. So I start with the things that like have to be included. Like these cards are part of my A strategy, like the main plan, and put those in first. And then as I get those out of the way, then I look at the cards like, well, these could go in. Is it that important?
Exactly.
How many strategies do I have? Do I have A plan and B plan? Do I have A, B, and C plan?
I do the same exact thing, except the only difference in the way that I do it is like I'll separate them by color, and then I'll do it by mana concentration.
Do you mean
the main cards
mana
that
concentration?
When I say mana concentration, 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, 4
okay,
cost,
mana
and
cost.
so forth. Yeah. I call it mana concentration because depending on how many you have in each mana, and each converted mana cost is a concentration.
It's hard for me to concentrate on that, but okay.
I don't know. It's just a term that I've always used.
Maybe it'll catch on.
You see it.
You heard it here first, folks.
You see it in the pie chart form on Tapped Out.
They say mana concentration.
I don't think they say mana concentration, but you see it in pie chart form.
Okay.
But what I like to do is I like to do that so I put in the cards that I definitely know I want in the deck in those piles. Again, 1 cost, 2 cost, and so forth. And then I go through, as you said, my B style, and I'm like, which cards can I put in to replace the higher concentration ones that this will fit, that can
so
play
you try
in.
to like lean towards lower cost spells if you can help it. Okay, I like that. So you're keeping a consideration for your curve from the onset.
Exactly. Yeah. My curve is a big thing. Like if your deck revolves around huge spells and stuff like that, don't take this as me saying, oh, high curve cost sucks.
High cost equals bad.
No, yeah, I'm not saying that, because a high cost deck can run really well if it runs really good ramp and stuff.
Yeah, it depends, because like you might have a strategy that actually encourages you to play haymakers. Maybe you're doubling spells. Maybe you're cheating on mana costs. Like there's ways to take advantage of high cost spells.
Just using
do it with a reason.
Yeah, like one commander in particular as an example, Joda.
Yeah, Joda is a good one.
Which is
you just pay Wooburg.
You just pay Wooburg for any mana cost. So get those 8-9 mana cost spells out there and blow up.
You kind of have to at that rate, otherwise you're not getting use out of Joda.
Yeah, he's called, what is he called? The Archmage? Joda.
I think so.
Yeah, like he's called that for a reason. Get those big spells out there.
So you divide up by mana cost.
By mana cost.
You try to lean towards the cheaper stuff. You're trying to be good.
Yeah.
You know?
And then from there, this is actually the way I built the most recent deck. That's the way I did it. I chose the knights that I knew I wanted in there. Put the ones that were a little questionable on the side.
Yeah.
Or rather, things that I knew that weren't needed but are fantastic to still be put in the deck. And then after the whole deck was built, I did my separations. I'm like, which of these cards do I really want in, and which of the higher ones can I take out?
Yeah.
Or if that's not a choice, what can I take out that's the same mana cost and put that in there instead? And that's how I went about it. And it's also those mana concentrations that allow me to figure out what my mana base is going to be, because I know how much of each color is more dominant in the deck than the other colors. Sir Gwyn is a 3-color deck. The most dominant color is white.
Yeah.
Then black.
Okay.
Then red.
Yeah, that's important to think about too, is the concentration of colors in your deck and when you'll need them. So sometimes that matters. Sometimes you get it. There's no real push in any particular direction.
Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't matter when you get the colors.
Yeah.
And so you just stay even. Yeah. Or you base it on just the volume of that color in your deck. Or sometimes it does matter, and the example I give is if you're in green and a big part of your strategy is to ramp and use green land-based ramp spells, or really any kind of ramp spells, you want that first. You want to start off the game by playing your green ramp spells, and that also has the benefit of like getting your mana up early, but it also helps you for fixing your mana, and so that leads into the other colors. So in that case, you would want to have a higher volume of green mana sources in your deck.
Of course.
And conversely, if you have something like you have red for a lot of finishers, you don't need until later in the game, you dial that back. Like, I only need red later into the game. I don't need to start the game with red. So you might reduce the number of red sources that you have in your deck, because you only need a couple to finish the game out.
Of course.
Yeah. And that way you get your colors at a better time. Like, you start the game, I need a forest.
Yeah, like in my situation specifically, I had to keep in mind how many cards in each color had the effect adamant.
This is another thing I want to talk about. Yeah, categories.
Yeah, because adamant specifically says if you spend 3 of a color to cast this card, you get a bonus effect associated with its original effect. So when building the Knight deck, I had to see which color had the most adamant effects as well. Yeah. Because let's say I had like 3 less cards in Swamp, 3 less black cards than I did white cards, so I would have more white. But a vast majority of my black cards were adamant. In that case, I would actually have more swamps than white. Yeah, because I would need the swamps. It kind of pushes back in that direction. Exactly.
That's good that you were mindful of it.
So that was something I had to keep in mind as well. Adamant effects off of cards.
I think that also means that for especially adamant, Eldraine adamant strategies, you kind of need a higher proportion of dual lands too to help make that work.
Because
it's not enough to just have your colors. You have to have a high enough concentration of those colors.
Yeah.
Like you might have adamant in red and black, so you can't just get by with basic lands, because even if you have both of those, you might not be able to get adamant off in both of those colors.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the dual lands go a long way. I would suggest Mana Confluence.
I'm not putting Mana Confluence.
So another interesting topic, is categories. So that's something I like to do when I'm either like finishing up a deck or from going back to a deck and making changes. I like to split up my spells by category. How much removal do I have? How much draw power? How much ramp or accelerants? I might have cards that are a category called the A plan, like cards that specifically synergize with my commander. And there's no hard numbers for these. It's just I want to see at a glance how much I have of each, because I want to know, like, do I have enough? Do I have enough counter spells? Do I have enough spot removal? Do I have enough board wipes? Am I lacking in any area?
Yeah, like my deck, for one, with the Knights, I don't have a lot of board wipes in that deck. I don't think I have any, to be honest.
Because you want to put creatures down.
Because I want to put creatures down, and my Knights should be taking care of that for me.
Yeah.
Also a lot of the equip cards take care of that for me as well. There's actually spot destruction with some of the equips that I have.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
do you, when you're making the knight deck, did you include things to protect your creatures, like
the equips, I put in equips
like
that
that
not
give
only
indestructible?
that only give them that not only give them like +1/+1 or +2/+1, but also give them different effects like hexproof, indestructible, shroud, things like
Yeah.
that. As you know, one of my favorite equip cards in the entire game is Darksteel Plate because it gives your creature indestructible and it itself is indestructible.
That's actually that's a nice commander card.
Oh, it's a fantastic commander card.
Yeah.
that
So
you
let's
can do.
let's talk about some other ways where your commander will kind of influence your strategy and how you could build around them. So we talked about Voltron.
Yeah.
I think we kind of beat that horse.
We beat that horse, definitely.
Yeah, that horse is dead.
Um,
Okay, so what I'm saying is different sort of ways that you would build around your commander. So Voltron is one where you want your commander for combat. So what I mean is an example would be Azuri, Claw of Progress.
mm-hmm.
You put him down and he's basically an enchantment. I don't do anything to improve his power, toughness, or evergreen abilities. He really just sits there as an enchantment. And then his effect is that while he's in play, obviously, anytime you play a creature with power 2 or less, you get an experience counter. And then at the beginning of combat, you can add as many +1/+1 counters to a creature you control as is the number of experience counters you have.
So a counter deck. We want to go with counter decks.
So it's +1/+1 counters, yeah. So now this influences how we build a deck. It's like, okay, we care about +1/+1 counters. We care about creatures with power 2 or less. Those are the two big things. And then there's other things that you could think about, like, okay, I'm in green. Do I want to at some point play large creatures? Do I want to play pump spells? I'm in blue. Do I want to use counter spells?
Do
I want to draw cards?
Ramp?
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
So there's different ways you can go about it, but you do want a high volume of small creatures.
Yes, you do.
So one thing, like when I got the Azuri precon, one thing that it included was a lot of things like when this creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. And those creatures kind of are just there to increase your experience counters and be bodies that you can put all of those juicy +1/+1 counters on when you get all those experience counters. And they replace themselves, so they don't slow you down. Is that you, Matt? You're texting me? I'm right here. You just
No, that wasn't me.
Okay. Let's see what that is.
Well, I was gonna
It's my friend Verizon Wireless.
One deck that I have that kind of plays that way. It's a bit of a just so we can talk about it later, since we're talking about different types. Because this is the only commander that I know of that plays this way, which is you don't play non-creature spells at all.
Oh, okay.
Nakia of the old ways. 3 red green. So her effect is you can't cast non-creature spells. So right off the bat, I'm looking at this commander. I'm gonna be like, okay, I can't cast non-creature spells. My deck is going to be 99 non-creature spells.
Yeah. Oops, all creatures.
Yeah, exactly. Well, creatures and mana. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So all your mana is doubled.
Yeah. So basically, you can what that'll influence you to do is not only play mostly or only creatures, but also it lets you bring up the curve of those creatures, because now your lands are tapping for double. You can play really big creatures.
Yeah, and since I'm using red-green, you can also, if you want, you can put in some really, really big spot destruction.
One is Flame Tongue Kavu,
Yeah.
which is 4 mana for a 4/2 Kavu, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to a creature. So it's like, stuff like that is what you want to run, because you're not going to be able to use non-creature spells to remove obstacles. Kavu is great for that. Another one is Silklash Spider, which Silklash Spider is a 2/7 spider for 5, and it has an activated ability X green green. Silklash Spider deals X damage to each creature with flying. So these sort of creatures you want to include in there, because you're going to need some kind of way to answer your opponents when they do put down those other creatures.
Yeah, and if you focus around creatures that can create tokens, you got Siege Gang Commander. Just start throwing those tokens.
You since you're getting double mana for creatures only, you can play creatures that have X in their cost, like Hydras.
Yeah.
Hydras are great. And if you're making double mana and doing the creature strategy, you can also run things like Zeratai Ancient, which is a 5-drop.
Yeah, basically you're going to want to just play a lot of creatures that have really good ETB effects.
So we're talking about okay, so what I wanted to talk about was Gahiji. Yes. Gahiji opens up the door for another entire style of deck. Gahiji the Honored One says, whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents or planeswalker an opponent controls, that creature gets 2 power until end of turn. So it's not just including your creatures, although it does. It also includes your opponent's creatures, which means that you can either attack your opponent with Gahiji and he'll get 2 power, or you could attack an opponent with a creature or any number of creatures and they get 2 power, which is great, but it also means that your opponents get 2 power for attacking each other. So what I did with this deck is that I built it around encouraging players to attack each other. So I put in things like Ghostly Prison, which makes it more expensive to attack me. So it kind of like forces them to attack each other. Things like Thunderstaff that reduces how much damage I take from attacking creatures. And things like Sylvan Offering, which gives my opponents creature tokens. And then I say, if you attack each other, you get more power out of it, so go nuts.
Yeah.
All things that just encourage players to attack each other. And it's not at all Voltron strategy. I don't even bother really doing anything with Gahiji. I don't make him any stronger. I just set up the rules for my opponents.
You encourage your opponents to attack each
other. So it's a
then
very political deck.
And then you pick up the sloppy seconds.
Yeah, basically. So I not only do things that buff all my creatures and buff my opponent's creatures, I do things like goad. I goad my opponent's creatures to attack, and they can't attack me. And then I also do things like political tools. A big one is Skullwinder, which is 2 and a green for a 1/3 snake with Death Touch. When Skullwinder enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, then choose an opponent. That player returns a card from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. So it's a political tool. I play this, get a card back, and then I choose an opponent that is also, underdog, and be like, hey, go grab something. Answer that giant thing that they got. And so just things like that. Things that let me kind of work with my opponents. You build around your commander. But it doesn't necessarily mean Voltron. It could be anything.
It could be anything. Just for one more example, my most unique commander deck, Archimedes.
Yeah, Archimedes. Wall Dragon.
Yeah,
sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh monster. Wall Dragon. Wall Shadow.
Wall of Shadow, yeah.
I have to do some kind of graphic with that. Just a dragon coming out of a wall.
Oh my god! But Archimedes just says your walls can attack as if they didn't have defender, and their power is equal to their toughness.
And when you cast a creature with defender, you draw a card.
And when you cast a creature with defender, you draw a card. So my whole entire deck is draw power.
Yeah.
Low cost, high power, high toughness creatures.
That deck is awesome.
And
I don't see it enough. You gotta play it more.
I gotta play it more. And the funny thing about it is when you're playing effects, it's only during combat that the power. First of all, its power is equal to its toughness, but it doesn't actually pump up its power.
Yeah.
It's still counted as a 0.
Yeah, and you can take advantage of that.
Oh yeah, with what's her name? It's that blue card that says if your creature's power is 0 or is a 2 or less, it attacks directly. It can't be blocked.
Tetsuo. Something. Yeah.
Something's Revenge.
I think it's 1 power or less.
It's 1 power or less. It can attack directly.
Guess 1 power or less.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. No, but it could be 0.
And then I'm like, oh, guess what? All my walls have 0 power.
Yeah.
They all attack.
Yeah. That's a nice way to get through.
And there's some really messed up walls that have defender, or just things that have defender, because it doesn't say walls. It just says cards with defender can attack as if they didn't have defender. Like, let's say, Sphere of Protection. a sphere of power, I believe. No, sphere shield. It's
Okay.
a 0/6 for 0, because its original effect is that whenever this creature blocks, it loses. It gets a minus. It gets a minus
-1,
zero,
-1.
-1 counter. Its defense goes down lower every time you
Yeah.
block with it. I ain't blocking with that.
Yeah, you're
I'm
attacking,
attacking
with
with that,
and you're using your toughness as damage,
which is 6.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
a
it's
0
mean.
drop for a
That's
6/6.
so dirty.
Because guess what? I have many other walls that can block for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, that deck it's
It's a fantastic deck. It plays so weird because there's really weird equips out there. They're like, oh, give this creature +0/+7. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with that.
And I also found out that there's more cards that give that same effect. There are other cards like sorceries or aura enchantments that have the same effect as Archimedes, that run the same color, identity as Archimedes, so they can go into the deck in case for some reason that commander can't get out.
Yeah, you have like backup plans and everything,
Exactly.
like contingency plans. If in the event that you can't put out your commander, you have other things that are backups.
And the thing that makes it really, really good, which is you're like, that's broken as heck. It was a wild pair, I believe. Where
Wild pair,
every time you summon a creature, you add its toughness and its power together, and whatever number that is, you can get out a creature whose power and toughness equals that same number.
Yeah.
A lot of walls, since you're
Play a
adding
4/4, get a 4/4. Play a 0/4, get a 0/4.
Yeah,
you know,
because
or
because
2/2.
Yeah, because their toughness is, because since you're not adding the power to the toughness, it's always going to be a somewhat of a very generic number between walls. Oh, it's like, oh, I dropped down a 0/4, I get another 0/4 out.
Yeah.
Oh, I dropped a 0/5 again.
Wild pair is just awesome. I love wild pair.
Works fantastically with that deck because I'm not getting weird numbers because it's always a 0-something.
Speaking of wild pair and build arounds, wild pair I've never seen be more broken than Slivers was good because you'd play a sliver, you'd get a sliver, and I would do things like where they'd tap for mana immediately, so that would let me get kind of like unlimited mana. Another place that's really good is in Yarok because wild pair says,
oh my god,
Yarok says when a creature enters, when a permanent entering the battlefield causes an ability to trigger and
trigger it again.
Yeah. Wild pair cares about it being cast, but it cares about entering the battlefield. So you get a creature to enter the battlefield. It has an ETB trigger that triggers twice, and then wild pair triggers twice. And so you get 2 creatures, each of them entering the battlefield and getting their abilities to trigger twice. It gets bonkers really fast. Wild pair and Yarok are best friends for sure.
They are.
So we covered a couple of we covered how to create a deck from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about different ways that you could build around a commander.
Mm-hmm. Mana base,
yeah. And then the thing that I would just end with is just that, like, when you have the deck finished and you're using it, be mindful about what are its weaknesses, what are its strengths, what is it lacking, where does it get tripped up. If you're trying to control your opponent, do you have the right numbers of different control spells? If you're trying to combo off, do you have a high enough volume of the pieces that you need? And just kind of think about that sort of thing.
And another thing you can do, just as an overall tip, watch some Commander games.
Yes! Watch games of Magic and learn from that, because, I mean...
A little hint, we're going to have Commander games on this channel very soon.
Yes. And I'm going to be putting up deck techs, and
I will be too.
I encourage you guys to check those out. And
we'll be going over our decks as well, because, hey, listen, some people like to build a deck that they see, and they want to see how it's built and all 100 cards. So we'll do that too. Yeah,
you could either build what we put up, or even just watching it just to kind of learn, how... Learning more is always good. Like, seeing how people build a deck kind of gives you some tips. And tricks.
As a matter of fact, I like to make very unique and weird decks at times. Like, who else?
Like sexually weird.
No,
I don't know
no,
what the...
no.
Yeah.
I like the weird decks, though. Like, no one has from all of our friends, no one has an ally deck.
Yeah, well, I like that we're always trying to be original.
No one has a ninja deck.
Yeah, you're the ninja guy.
I'm the ninja guy. The last most important rule of Commander.
What's that?
Have fun.
Take care, have fun.
No, listen, between all your building and all your looking up cards and trying to make your Commander deck work, have fun. If you're if you're getting bored or you're not having fun, you're probably doing something wrong, or you don't enjoy the deck you're building.
Yeah.
When I was building this Knight deck, I was laughing to myself, thinking, I'm like, oh, I can do this, or I can do that, or this.
You probably look like a madman sitting there.
Yeah, a madman looking at my computer screen with a bunch of cards in front of me, just cracking up. But the fact of the matter is, I was thinking about how much fun I can have with the deck, and that's what truly matters. Don't build a deck and be like, I'm gonna win with this deck no matter what. That's the wrong way to look at it.
But don't be like me and build decks and take them apart faster than you can use them. That's not. Then you really are a madman, and then you stay up until 3 a.m. and leave a Facebook post about how you made a deck that ends all combos. Yeah, a combo that can take years to fully realize, and then you don't have friends by the end of it. So don't do that, because friends are important part of Commander.
Also, like, if you have a deck that you really like, just keep it together. You don't have to take it apart. Like, for me, that Archimedes deck was my first command. Aside from the hodgepodge,
the zombie deck?
Deck that we met.
Kalidas.
Aside from the hodgepodge Kalidas deck we made, because I just wanted to play a Commander game. My very first Commander that I made, all me, no input from anyone, was Archimedes. That was my very first Commander deck. I don't think I'll ever take apart that deck, just because of the fact that it was my first one, and I love its effect. It's so unique.
I took Azuri was the first deck that I had, and I took it apart after a while because I felt like I kind of got everything I wanted to get out of it. And I couldn't stay away. I had to reassemble it.
Exactly.
And I ended up finding some new things to do with it. So there's always something new that you can do. Maybe take a step back from a deck, but then when you go back to it later, you might have some new insights to bring to the deck.
I make weird bonds with my decks that are very close to me. Like back even in the Yu-Gi-Oh days, my Karakuri deck, not overpowered by any means of the mind, but it was my baby, so I always kept it. Still have it to this day.
But even if you have your deck that is your baby, nobody likes it when you put them on the phone with your baby. That's
just weird.
It's just weird. Nobody likes that.
No one likes that.
Come hold my Commander deck, isn't it cute?